The New York mayor election less now than 2 months away, and joining us now is independent candidate for mayor and a former New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo. I want to thank you for joining us, and want to also just say we've asked some of the other candidates on the broadcast as well. So in terms of fair and balanced, we want to have everybody on the broadcast. Where are we in terms of when you think about your path to winning? If you think that there is a path. We look at Poly Market all the time. I don't know if that's a good thing to look at or not. And right now, Mamdani would still be at 81%. You're at 17%. Adams 2%. There's a question mark about whether Adams stays in. Want to get into all of that? What happens to Sliwa? How this all happens?
Yeah. Well, first, happy anniversary.
Thank you
to both of you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for the cake. We brought some cake.
Yes. And to Joe. This is a much different race than the primary, and this is an evolving race. I think you're going to see a lot happen between now and Election Day. And I feel very good because it's going to come down to a one-on-one choice. It's going to be me versus Mamdani. And that is all...
Because Eric Adams is saying he's not dropping out.
Well, we'll see what happens with Eric Adams, but in reality, for voters, there are going to be two viable candidates who can win. It's going to be me and Mamdani. And you could not have a more stark choice because Mamdani is a socialist. I am a Democrat. And we haven't even gotten to the discussion of what a socialist really means in New York. And he is a radical socialist, anti-business, anti-public safety, et cetera. And that is not what New York City is all about, right? This is a business capital. We're not anti-business. Right. And it's going to be a very stark choice.
I want to get into some of the things that he has said, and even maybe some of his positions that have changed to try to become either more pro-business or less socialist, if you will. But my question to you is, look, some of the polls suggest if you could get down to 2, that maybe you'd have a real shot here. The question about that, though, is how you get there. I know that you've talked to Eric Adams. You've asked him to get out. I know he's asked you to get out. Sliwa's still in there. There's now headlines that President Trump, may try to offer Adams a job to get him out of the role. There's been conversations about whether some of the real estate executives in New York want to offer Eric Adams a job. By the way, what do you think of that unto itself and what that says to other New Yorkers?
Yeah. Well, I don't even know what that means, Andrew. I know that you have an alliance between President Trump and Eric Adams. Eric Adams would be in jail, but for President Trump.
Mamdani says that you are President Trump's choice.
Yeah, except that's ludicrous, right? If you're a Republican, you are praying for Mamdani to win. If Mamdani wins, they can use that against the Democrats all across the country. Mamdani wins, they'll say the Democratic Party has been taken over by socialists. And here's the position of the socialists. They're against business. They would raise taxes. Everything is free. Disband the police, legalize prostitution, abolish jails. They would win all sorts of seats here in New York with that. I believe they pick up congressional seats. They might pick up the governorship to control Mamdani.
So these reports that the president would like to see you win and would like to offer the current mayor a job, you think are inaccurate?
No, I think they're separate things, Andrew. I think you do have a President Trump-Adams alliance. The president, literally, as I said, Adams would be in jail, in my opinion, but for President Trump. If President Trump can give him a job and a graceful exit, and if he couldn't get him confirmed, I think he would do that just on a personal level. That's different than what the Republicans want. The Republicans would be incompetent if they didn't want Mamdani, because they would be right in saying the socialist wing, the far-left socialist wing, has taken over the Democratic Party in New York City.
Right. For you to win, though, do you think that he has to drop out and Sliwa has to drop out and they have to endorse you, or they just have to get out of the race?
No, I don't think it works the way you suggest. I think it practically comes down to a two-person race, right? Okay. I was just in a primary. There were candidates who were polling at 8%, wind up at 1%.
Right.
Candidates polling at 14, wind up at 3%. Why? Because they weren't viable. It was really a two-person race, and people don't want to waste their vote. This is going to be me versus Mamdani. I'm going to be talking about the economy and jobs and opportunity, and that's what New York is all about. And how do we bring businesses back? Because that is the issue. Unemployment rate is problematic here.
Right.
The deficit is problematic. New York is opportunity. So how do we bring jobs back? And Mamdani's message is the exact opposite. He is a socialist. He's against capitalism. He's against the police. He would disband them, et cetera. And that doesn't sell, but that's the stark choice.
He seems to have walked back some of what you would describe as his socialist tendencies. He had obviously made comments back in 2020, for example, around defunding the police. He now suggests that that's not the case. What do you make about some of the comments that he had made on Twitter or other places in years past that would clearly fall into these categories, but today is saying something different?
It's not years past, and you can't take back what comes out of your mouth on a videotape. You can't take back the tweets. Now, he's in the general election, and he's trying to modify himself, modify his positions. But you can't do a 180-degree turn. You can't transform the essence of who you are. His words are, and they're written, and it's a socialist charter. It is government should control the means of production. There should be no private property ownership. I mean, this is radical stuff.
There should be no private ownership?
No private ownership of real estate. You couldn't own your own home. The American dream.
This is on his plank? This is on the Democratic Socialist plank?
This is the Democratic Socialist charter.
Right.
Charter that you signed.